నమస్కారం.
అందరికీ నమస్కారములు. నమో నమః. సర్వేభ్యో నమస్కారః. Today is another good Saturday afternoon. We are going to have another good, very interesting topic from Achyut Purushottam Karve ji. Today's topic is Maheshwara Sutras as Updesha. We will start this session with reciting Vande Mataram as part of our paying respect to our country. And then after that, we'll do Prarthana. And then, though it is not required that Achyut ji needs introduction to all of you, but there may be say, a few people who have joined late. I mean, first time. So I will briefly introduce him to all of you. After that, we will hand over the platform to him. Now I'll recite Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram. Sujalam Sufalam Malayajasitalam Sasyamalam Mataram Vande Mataram Subrajosna Pulakitayamini Pullakusumita Drumadalasobhini Suhasini Sumadurabhashini Sukhadam Varadam Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram. Okay, now we will start the session with Prarthana. I'll request H.P. Rao to do the Prarthana, please.
हरिः ओम्. सर्वेभ्यः नमस्कारः. प्रथमं ध्यानम् 1 निमिषं, तदनन्तरं त्रिवारं ओङ्कारं, तदनन्तरं प्रार्थनागीतानि. अस्तु, आरम्भं कुर्मः. ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपवस्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पद आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिस्सेदसादनम् ॐ महागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवत्र्यवतु। ॐ सरस्वत्यै नमः। हरिः ॐ। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतंगमय। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव आचार्य देवो भव अतिथि देवो भव। ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवोपास्महे। वागर्धाविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्धप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। हरिः ओम्। नमस्कारः। सर्वेभ्यः स्वागतं व्याहरामि। धन्यवादाः।
ఓకే, ధన్యవాదములండి. Now it is my pleasure and the privilege to introduce Sri Achyut Purushottama Karve ji. To briefly explain, to tell about him, he has been studying the tabla of Ahmad Jan Tirakwa for the past 50 years, trying to figure out the reason for the exquisite lingual sounds he could produce on the tabla. He was the first to point out that this technique of playing tabla was the outcome or reflection of a chaste recitation of the compositions. To reveal the chaste phonation of letters, he took the refuge of the Maheshwara Sutras. In 2015, after study of 10 years on the Maheshwara Sutras, he recorded his findings on 64 letters of the Sanskrit language and 18 anus in his book, revealing the Atlantis of Sanskrit phonology. He has also been working with the children, teaching them to read and write the Devanagari script. In his effort, he was guided by Pandit Vasudevacharya Joshi, a Vedic Pandit, and Professor Shivakumar Chaturvedi ji, a professor of Sanskrit grammar at Bharatiya Sanskrit Samsthanam, Lucknow. And with this very brief introduction, let us request Achyut ji to start his webinar, please. 1 minute. Achyut ji.
So, should I start?
Yeah, please start. If you want to share any document, you can do so.
Yes, that I will do. So today is a great day that I have been given an opportunity by Veda Samskruti Samiti for presenting this subject as being Maheshwara Sutras as Updesha. Today, or over the past many decades or centuries, the Devanagari script has been used to instruct the basic alphabet. This has posed tremendous problems for students who cannot pick up the script, neither can they phonate the tongue properly or read and write. Secondly, even though Sanskrit has been introduced in our schools at 5th or 8th standard, and millions of children are taking up Sanskrit as a second subject or a third subject, we do not find anybody around us proficient in Sanskrit or a wish to study Sanskrit. Now this is on account of that the alphabet of Sanskrit has not been taught. Many children who opt for Sanskrit in schools cannot read Sanskrit because of their vernacular tongue. This effort of mine is basically directed towards making Sanskrit a language which could be pursued by children right from primary stage, not at 5th or 8th standard. And this can be easily achieved by introducing these Maheshwara Sutras as instruction for language learning, whichever the language may be. It may be Marathi, it may be Telugu, it may be English, it may be German, French, or any other language. Because the Maheshwara Sutras point to nature given human sounds, which have been compiled in the Maheshwara Sutras. The Maheshwara Sutras are not Sanskrit specific, but their instruction is absolutely necessary for any child or person to learn to speak or recite Sanskrit. This webinar of mine is directed at how I came to this conclusion over the past 20 years, looking at the various problems that children face while picking up the basic Indian alphabet, that is A, I, E, E, or the consonants, and a remedy towards it. I have tried instructing the Maheshwara Sutras to children from 1st to 4th standard with great success. So this article will take one and lead him to the importance of instruction of the Maheshwara Sutras in education as such. Because language is the basic tool through which humans have evolved. And if that language tool is not well evolved and developed, it reflects in the child's ability and potential to grow. So therefore, I am presenting this topic. This topic will start with an introduction to how I arrived at it through all these years and what led me to engage myself in these Maheshwara Sutras. Sutras numbering just 14 in number, and how they can impact the whole life of a child and make him more capable of communicating properly, understanding communication, and developing his thought process. So I'll present the notes that I have brought out for you. And so is it presented? Can you all see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mahoday. Mahoday.
I'll start and I'll stop at each para. Those participants can question it or put up their questions piece by piece instead of putting the questions at the end. Maheshwara Sutras as Updesha. Updesha in English would mean a precept, meaning a command or principle intended especially as a general rule of action. In Sanskrit pedagogy, it means an instruction orally rendered by a guru to his shishya. The Maheshwara Sutras can also be defined as the axioms on which the Ashtadhyayi has been written. Each rule of the Ashtadhyayi needs, therefore, to be interpreted within the framework of the letters enunciated in the Maheshwara Sutras. The Maheshwara Sutras, therefore, serve as Upadesha because they provide the fundamental instructions on which the entire edifice of Sanskrit grammar, particularly Panini's system, is built. They combine spiritual significance, pedagogical utility, and linguistic precision, serving as a timeless guide for those who study Sanskrit and its grammar. As such, the Maheshwara Sutras as Upadesha serve multiple purposes. They are a divine revelation, a phonetic foundation, a tool for grammatical precision, and a guide for linguistic analysis, all within the sacred tradition of Sanskrit. Their role as the foundation of Panini's grammar system, combined with their spiritual and practical significance, makes them essential for anyone studying Sanskrit, both from a linguistic and a spiritual perspective. So this is what the Maheshwara Sutras are all about. Patanjali has dealt with with Sanskrit grammar, not the Maheshwara Sutras as such, but Sanskrit grammar in his first Anika, in his Paspanika. So all might know what he says about Sanskrit grammar. So now I'll start. The background. As a schoolboy, I used to find it intriguing as to how was it that each object around me had a name. Again, my parents had named me Achyut, and I discovered that many could not phonate it as I expected them to phonate. Some would call me Achyut, others Achyut, and my anglicized teachers had great difficulty in calling my name. All this experience made me become inquisitive about words, English or otherwise. As a college-going student, I realized that though I could read each and every word in the book, the word faced me to be nothing more than human sounds bereft of meaning. Being anglicized, I could not commit sentences to memory. My tryst with words actually began when I started taking tabla lessons from my guru, Pandit Narayan Joshi. On the first day itself, he asked me to commit to memory a composition which read as follows. The composition reads, Dha kata ghinna tuna, kirdha kata ghinna tuna, kinna kitataka tatir kitataka, dhitta dhaginna dhatraka dha. In the normal pace, as it is played on the tabla, it would be Dha kata ghinna tuna, kirdha kata ghinna tuna, kinna kitataka tatir kitataka, dhitta dhaginna dhatraka dha kata ghinna tuna. The composition, in spite of not having any literal meaning, mused my ears and thus created curiosity. And for the next several years, committed my many compositions to memory and began attempting to play them. It was my fortune to be introduced to the tabla of Amazon Thirakwa, who was known as the Mount Everest of the tabla, the one and only one in the generations to come in his own generation also and in future generations, even today. Unhackneyed and crisp in presentation of tabla solo, unduplicatable by the most skilled, his name and fame provoked the believer in me, believing that no human practice is mystical or unreproducible. My guru, Narayan Joshi himself, the son of the noted violinist and classical vocalist Pandit Gajanan Rao Joshi, was entrusted to bring back the knowledge of the tabla as existed in the tradition. Narayan Joshi, the one and only one who studied the tabla with Amajan Thirappa for 15 long years, picked up each and every nuance of his guru's rendition, observing him daily while he presented a solo or while he rehearsed at home. What is seen by the naked eye is what is imitated. Now a child imitates what it hears. Any student studying instrumental music is first drawn to the movements that his guru makes while he studies the instrument. However, what draws him towards it are its music. With Narayan Joshi, it was no different, believing that the technique with which he played was the reason for his success. That is, the reason for his success was the technique. My association with Narayan Joshi began after the death of his guru Amajan Thirappa. At that time, one could see him rehearsing the compositions which he had learned hours on. He gave me an opportunity to observe his finger movements while he played the compositions he had learned. At the same time, I continued hearing the recordings of Amajan Thirappa and ratioinated it with the rendering of Narayan Joshi on the tabla, which matched. However, over the years, I observed that in spite of Narayan Joshi's presentation, virtually tallying with that of Amajan Thirappa, the effect was not up to that which Amajan Thirappa achieved with the same technique. The reasons thereof had to be observed and investigated. Doubts arose when Amajan Thirappa used to say that if I ever were to be born a second time, I would prefer to be born as my Guru Munir Khan, of whom he used to say he would not play the tabla as his hands were not fit for it. However, his recitation was as if that of Saraswati. I therefore tried to move forward by interviewing Munir Khan's student, Pandit Ganpatrao Dowri from Sangli, and asked him how he would teach. The answer I received confirmed my doubt. He said Munir Khan never used to teach how to play. Instead, he would recite the compositions and ask the student to attempt to reproduce the notes in the composition on his tabla. It was thus obvious that Amajan Thirappa had evolved a technique which would reproduce the notes in the recitation of Munir Khan. Amajan Thirappa studied with Munir Khan for 30 long years. In the 90s, therefore, my attention shifted from that of reproducing the technique of Amajan Thirappa to that of recitation of tabla compositions. As no recordings of Munir Khan's recitation was available, I started reciting the compositions which I knew, those being taught by Narayan Joshi, while I listened to Amajan Thirappa's tabla. This exercise was that of imitation, lingual in the other way around. Amajan Thirappa heard and reproduced it on the tabla. What I attempted was listening to the tabla. I tried to reproduce it in recitation. At about the same time, I had the fortune to listening the recitation of the Bhagavad Gita by Pandit Vasudevacharya Joshi and was impressed by his diction. I therefore decided to learn Sanskrit from him. When I asked him how should I start, he asked me to commit the Bhagavad Gita to memory. However, I was in service and could not devote time for it. I therefore requested him to record the Bhagavad Gita for me so that I could repeatedly listen to his rendering and reproduce his diction. Three things that I learned from his recitation were the accurate phonation of the short and long vowels, the intonation part of his diction, and the clarity of phonating the padas in spite of adhering to the Sandhi rules. In the late 90s, I resigned from my job and started tutoring students from 5th standard to 10th standard. This gave me an opportunity to listen to different students while they read, where I found that each student phonated words differently. I did not read the lesson for them, lest my diction, which I did not consider to be standard, be imitated by them. I only helped them in pronunciation where they could not read. This exercise continued for 10 long years, at the end of which I concluded that in spite of being capable of reading, they could not pick up meaning while they read, thus resulting in a wide range of scores. There were three different children. The first one who could not read Devanagari even at the age of 13. With this child, I had to teach him the Devanagari script. While teaching, I had to phonate the alphabet, and while doing so, I realized that the class consonants, that is ka, cha, ta, and pa, of a particular class can be phonated one anterior to another or one posterior to another, as ka, kha, ga, gha, nga, or ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. So a doubt arose which one of the two was the right one. In the second case, I found that a child with his mother tongue Marathi could read fluently, but his score would hardly cross 20%, showcasing that he barely understood what he read. I even checked. I asked him to read a sentence and reproduce it, at least meaning-wise, which he could not do. In the case of a third child, whose mother tongue was Marathi, but was schooled in an English medium school, read English fluently, but hardly scored 4 to 5% marks. All this indicated that linguistic skills in children varied widely and no specific reasoning could be given for their wide distribution. This experience shattered my belief that those who could read understood what they read. I thus shifted my focus to primary school children, concluding that it is in the age group of 5 to 10 years that basic lingual skills develop. On the other side, Amazon Thirakwa used to say that the compositions of the tabla could not be scripted. The reason being that they contain lots of nuances which cannot be reflected in the script. However, my Guruji was keen on documenting in script whatever he had committed to memory. So after the death of Amazon Thirakwa, he documented all compositions he knew in script. Being closely associated with the project of documentation of the composition, I asked him whether those who will read the documentation would reproduce the way you expect them to reproduce. The answer was a big no. I therefore goaded him to recite what he had documented in script, which I then recorded for the sake of documentation. This long journey made me realize that I needed to work on the basic nature of the alphabet and its instruction. The nature of consonants, I was intrigued that the akara too can be phonated in two ways. That is, by pushing the tongue forward or by pulling the tongue backward. Hence, a doubt which of these two were correct. That is, for example, our basic language is of dha and ta. Now whether I say dha and ta, or I say dha and ta, whether it is dhatit dhagina dhatirkita dhatit dhage dinagina, or whether it is dhatit dhagina dhatirkita dhatit dhage dinagina. So there was a doubt here. In the quest, I went through all the grammar books that I had, both English and Marathi, but found no answer. I thus concluded that a person well versed in Sanskrit grammar needed to be consulted. In this search, I was led to my third guru, Professor Shiv Kumar Chaturvedi, a professor of Sanskrit grammar at the Bharatiya Sanskrit Sansthan, Lucknow. In our first meeting itself, I asked him who devised the order of the Devanagari script letters. No sooner that I asked him, he retorted back saying that these are not the ones to be instructed. Obviously, my second question was, then which are they that are to be instructed? He then recited the Maheshwara Sutras for me and said, these are the letter sequence that needs to be used for instruction, that is for Updesha. I then recorded the Maheshwara Sutras and started working on them. The rest is history. Now, does anybody want to ask any questions about this, so that then we can start the topic right away? So how, one is that it is, you can use it as Updesha. What should be the nature of the Updesha? That is, one has to phonate to instruct. One cannot instruct by script. This is very important. So the question is this: how do we phonate the Maheshwara Sutras? Does anybody have any questions, or should I go ahead? Okay. So
does it mean?
Huh?
Does it mean to learn any Sangeetam or an instrument? First, they should learn Maheshwara Sutras.
Yes, yes, and this is confirmed by Bhartrihari in his Vakpadiyam, that all subsequent evolutions of various Vedas or Laukik Sanskrit has to draw from the Maheshwara Sutras, and they are but the Maheshwara Sutras put to specific use. That is what he has stated in his Vakpadiyam, that though suppose it is Samaveda, so Samaveda also has to go back to the Maheshwara Sutras to define what they are reciting. In the case of Laukik Sanskrit also, suppose I want to recite the shlokas, there too I have to use the Maheshwara Sutras. In the case of Samagan, in the case of Sangeet, whether it is northern or South Indian, one has to go to the Maheshwara Sutras to draw from it, so that he can then use the modulated aspects of the Maheshwara Sutras for that specific purpose. I think this is there in the Vakpadiyam of Bhartrihari, and this is a very great clue. So the Maheshwara Sutras are general in nature and have to be specifically adopted for each different shakha of the Vedas or the art forms that have evolved thereafter. So this is important. There is no doubt about it. And Bhartrihari has said that you cannot shun the Maheshwara Sutras. This was in fact a very big question that was raised by my guru. What has the Maheshwara Sutras to do with the tabla? What has Sanskrit to do with the tabla? I told him that you are mistaken. The simple answer for it is, I asked him that the tabla compositions are ruka in nature. How do you phonate the compositions? Suppose your father, who was a vocalist also, he had to instruct the notes, Saregama Padanisa, by phonating it and asking the student to try to imitate it. My question was this, that all gurus of art forms, they had only one answer for all questions. That was, listen to how I am saying and what I am saying and try to imitate it. So this is not an instruction. So you have to, and in my book, Revealing the Atlantis of Sanskrit Phonology, in Appendix 3, I have derived each of the swaras from the Maheshwara Sutras in all the three Saptakas. And how, a study of which led me to the conclusion that the Gandhara in the the first octave cannot be phonetic. And the Dhaivat in the upper octave too cannot be phonetic because there is no room for phonation. When I cross-examined it with one of my friends who had learned violin, he told me that was true. That Ga in the lower octave and the Dha in the upper octave cannot be phonetic. So these are certain things, and it is necessary that everyone draw from it. And hence even Nandikeshwar drew his whole Nritya Shastra from Maheshwar Sutras. So there is no doubt about it. So any other question?
So this gives a clue that Maheshwara Sutra should be the first lesson for any student in his life.
Whichever, even if you are teaching English.
Yeah, in every life. Anybody's student, any student.
Yes.
Should start with Maheshwara Sutra so that his vocal systems are properly tuned. Okay.
So these are certain important aspects, and hence it should. My issue is this, that why it has not been brought into the curriculum at the basic level.
Great. Let us go.
It should have been brought when it was an instruction. Children of 4 and 5 years of age have to be instructed to phonate, where the teacher's role is important. And unfortunately, the teachers who are teaching at primary or pre-primary level have no knowledge about how to instruct letters. They need to be trained, and they are the foundation of the whole future of the child. If the primary or pre-primary teacher succeeds, the child's future becomes bright. If she doesn't succeed, then the child is in grave problem. Many leave school by, say, 5th, 7th or 10th standard. The problem is not that they cannot think. The problem is this, that they cannot understand because of lack of lingual skills. This is the conclusion. So the Maheshwara Sutra should become a part of the Indian education system, irrespective of the vernacular language. This will make, because vernacular languages are but corruptions of the basic letters. So the child will be in a position to appreciate the corruption because he is speaking that tongue. For example, I'll give my own example. I'm an anglicized person. I could barely speak Marathi. However, after practicing the Maheshwara Sutras, I could easily speak Marathi better than what native Marathi speakers speak, because they are better than what they speak. Articulation is better. One more point is, I have never scored more than 35 marks in Hindi during my whole schooling career. However, after practicing these Maheshwara Sutras, I can speak Hindi as better than what any Hindi speaking person can speak. Because the native people who speak that language is so manifold and corrupted that it is very difficult to speak as they speak. And that is how people who migrate from one state to another are recognized by the natives in their own state. because they carry their basic vernacular corruption to speak that language. These are the problems. So if these problems in the Indian education system have to be addressed, Maheshwara Sutra should become the basis of instruction and not the Devanagari script. Any questions?
Proceed, please proceed.
So now we start with so somebody has raised his or her hand. So is anybody going to ask? Ratnam Vadla Mudi. Do you want to ask any question?
Sarvebhya Namaskara. I want to ask, today is Hindi Dinotsava. So that does it mean that the language has on this day born out of the Devanagari script, or the Devanagari script has been born today? What does that mean?
See,
because Hindi and Devanagari are the same.
Let me, in my previous lecture, I had explained this, saying that irrespective of the script, the Devanagari letters sequences are adopted by all scripts, except Tamil. In Tamil, they do not phonate the letters ka, kha, ga and gha in these second, third and fourth letters in the class consonants. There is reason for that also, because the instruction has a problem. Secondly, the question is not how old Sanskrit is. From a pragmatic and practical point of view, Sanskrit exists today. What Sanskrit can do is it can unite the country across lingual groups, so that a speaker of one language will appreciate the speaker of another language. For example, in South India, they are averse to Hindi. Now, what is the reason? The reason is simply that they cannot phonate those words. They find difficulty in phoneting it. Those who go to school, they probably pick up. Even I had that problem. So, the Maheshwara Sutras will lead you to phoneting any language, any vernacular language or any language, so that you can modulate your vocal organs and corrupt them in accordance with the language that you want to speak. For examples, you take the example of A. Now, A in English, if your ears are not sensitive, that A in English, according to English in the United Kingdom, has an A and an E in it. It has an A and an E. It is A. It is not A, as we say. So one will be in a position to appreciate the quality of a language and learn it also. So should I?
Actually, my question was that today is a Hindi Dinotsav day. Does it mean that it was day that Devanagari has been accepted, the letters have been framed?
See the sequence of the Devanagari script goes back to the Pratishakyas. It is not new. So it is not new. It has come down from the Pratishakyas.
Okay.
What I want to present or say is that you leave these Pratishakyas aside and work on the Maheshwara Sutras for instruction. As far as script is concerned, you can use any script if you know the alphabet. So the script, and therefore in India we find that each lingual group has innovated its own script. The script was not the problem. The problem was the Updesha. And this you don't find in other parts of the world. In England, they use the same script, but the alphabet is different. In India, the opposite is the case. The alphabet is the same, but the script is different. So these problems are age-old and they need to be solved. So first is any Murthy has raised his hand.
महोदय, कार्वे महोदय जी, गुड इवनिंग.
Good evening.
तो ये जो आप कह रहा है, जो माहेश्वर सूत्रास, is there any structured syllabi to give instructions to the students, and how much time it will take to learn the Maheshwar Sutras, if at all one want to learn?
And now I'll answer this question. See, what has happened is nobody has worked on the Maheshwar Sutras after the Ashtadhyayi. Patanjali says that the Maheshwar Sutras are the general frameworks of letters that are used in Sanskrit. The modifications, for example, he says that the Rahasva letters or the Dirgha letters or the Pluta letters of all vowels have not been instructed. What or the Barakhadi has not been instructed. In my next lecture, I will present as to how we can use the Maheshwar Sutras as modulated or modified in actual language. So the letters in the Maheshwar Sutras are only the clue. For example, the elements of the chemical elements, all chemical elements, they do not exist independently. They exist in combination. They exist as modified chemical compounds. So in the same way, these letters have to be compounded or they have to be modulated to be used in languages. That study is much different than the Maheshwar Sutras. So an effort should be made. That is point number one. Point number two, I think in the Mahabhashya, Patanjali says that you take a small subject and work on it and make sutras out of it. If you are capable of doing it, you will get moksha. That is what is the statement. Now here, as far as the Maheshwar Sutras, the importance is of sutra literature. And the Devanagari script sequence are not sutras. So they are incapable of instruction. This is the problem. As far as your question is how much time will it take? It will not take more than a week's time for the child to pick up the Maheshwar Sutras, provided the instruction is correct, uncorrupt, and proper. And the teacher has been taught how to teach also, because people cannot innovate out of themselves. So you have to go through every part of it as far as teachers training is concerned. Now I did teachers training at a school in our hometown for 40 days. And I told them, why don't you use? What they told me was, the education department doesn't allow for such extraneous experiments. I told them that that is your business, it is none of my business. So basically, the Maheshwar Sutras are very easy to instruct and they don't take time. Practicing them over a long period of time. I required, say, 10 years of repetition and concentration on it, because I had no background. Nobody instructed me. I had to teach myself how to recite it. And being a tabla student, lay was the most important aspect of it. Because all musical instruments, all music is played in laya. It is rendered in laya. And so is the case with these Maheshwar Sutras, which I could relate. So,
will there be a difference in Maheshwar Sutras for Hindustani Gatram and for the Dakshinadi Gatram?
No. No, 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 not at all. Why? How come it can be that? See,
No, because the Tilanas are different.
let them be different.
Tilanas, they are different. For
Even though
for Karnataka.
Yeah, yes, accepted. Do you know that the Tala Prakriya in South Indian music has been people from North India, tabla players from North India went to South India to learn the Tala Prakriya in South India. And today what is played on the tabla is more than 50% the Tal Prakriya of South Indian music. This is there, but that has destroyed the tradition of the tabla because the two traditions are totally different.
Yeah, that is what I am worried. That is why I am asking.
But see, you can separate it. You can keep, see, is it that if I am speaking in English, I can't speak Sanskrit, or I can't speak Marathi, or I can't speak Hindi, or I can't speak any other language which I have learned? Not at all. In fact, I will follow the nuances of each of that language much better than the person who is speaking. This is what, see, this is what the Maheshwara Sutras teaches us. It teaches us to phonate, use this organ of phonation in a way suited. However, in the case of Sanskrit, it is inevitable. Otherwise, you will corrupt Sanskrit. That is the problem. And that is why Panini wrote his Ashtadhyayi. That Sanskrit as a language should not get corrupted. If it gets corrupted, rules are there so that they can rebuild it. For example, if you ask me, I will say I recite the Maheshwara Sutras as Panini would have recited it. Here we can align ourselves with the diction of Panini. What has happened in the Pratishakyas is that many people were involved in it, and hence the least common factor was what was written as Shiksha. However, with Panini, it was his diction that on the basis of which he compiled the Maheshwara Sutras and adhered to it throughout his Ashtadhyayi. So, from this point of view, the Maheshwara Sutras are much, much more authentic as instruction than is the Devanagari script sequence. Any more questions?
Let us proceed.
So, recitation of the Maheshwara Sutras. The Maheshwara Sutras read like this. A Iuna, Ruluk, E Ong, I Ouch, Haya Varat, Lana, Yamangana Nama, Jabhaya, Gada Dasha, Jaba Gada Dasha, Kapha Chatata Chatatava, Kapaya, Shashasara, Hala. Now, those who are attending this seminar, webinar, it is very easy. Those who have a music background of music. So you say, look, Ong, I Ouch, Haya Varat, Lana, Yamangana Nama, Jabhaya, Gada Dasha, Jaba Gada Dasha, Kapha Chatata Chatatava, Kapaya, Shashasara, Hala. You will find that the beat, that the hand is not moved or the prayatna is uniform. When you are reciting the Maheshwara Sutras properly, therefore they are also called as Samam Naya Sutras. See, I'll really, on the Damru also it can be played, but look, look. Now for every beat you have a letter, but for for two beats so it is a dirgha swar. So look, I ouch, haya varat lana, yamangana nama jabaya, gada dasha, jaba gada dasha, kapha chatata chatata, kapaya, shashasara hala. So all the other letters are short. So this is one aspect of it. Damru is still better. Now, is anybody, the question was how much time does it require to learn the Maheshwara Sutras? Is anybody ready to volunteer oneself so that I can demonstrate that how much time does it require? Can anybody volunteer?
Last year,
No, I will instruct. What is the problem?
Mahodaya.
Are you ready?
Mahodaya.
Archana, isn't it?
I
Archana has
my
raised her hand.
Mahodaya. I raised
Yes.
my hand, but the voice who said was not me. I raised my hand
Uh,
to volunteer, but the person who spoke, are you ready? That wasn't me. I am ready to.
say, ठीक है ना. Let us volunteer. Let us be open to what you can say. We have to expose ourselves for anything new that we are going to learn. ठीक है फिर. If there are
Yes.
two, I don't mind. If the two have volunteered, that is also not a problem.
Yes, sir, I am ready.
So we start with it.
I am
So-
also ready, sir. Suresh Babu.
we can work on it. So in the Maheshwara Sutras, that recitation of Maheshwara Sutras on YouTube, you will find that Iuna has been recited as Ayun. Now this needs correction. What is the correction? How do we correct it? So you say all these letters are calls. They are not script letters. They are calls of humans. So you see at A, E and U as calls. So you say A. Say, those who have offered themselves and volunteered. No, it is A. This is A. Then anybody else who would like to volunteer? So it is This is a call. This is basically a call. Second, the second letter is E. So you say E. E. If you are repeating it twice, you have solved the issue. Then say U. What is the difference? Now, bas. A, E, U, na. It should be a call. It should be a call. A, E, U, na. You got it. No, not it is A, E, O. A, E, O, bas. A, E, O. So it is once you practice as in music, you practice it, you will say A, E, O. It is a How much time did we need? How much time did we require to instruct?
2 minutes.
If the instruction is right. Similarly, now Ru and Lu both are Murdhanya Swaras. Now I had a Murdhanya. We Marathi people will phonate it differently. Ru will be phonated differently. Lu will be phonated differently. All that will happen. So when I met Professor Shivkumar Chaturvedi, he asked me to phonate the letter T. I just phonated T. He said, "This is not the letter." I was really astonished. I said, "I am speaking, I am saying T. You can hear it as T." What he did was very important. He showed me the vidhi to say T. What is the vidhi? Now, many languages do not have Murdanya Aksharas, or they are not so rampantly used. So, what he told me was, and I was really, I had lost my head in that process. So, what he said was, what is the vidhi for saying ta? Ta should be said as you put your head down like this, raise your tongue and put it to your Murdanya place, the uppermost place, and press it and just call. So it will be ta. What will be the call?
Ta.
Ta. No, don't say
Ta.
it is a call.
Ta.
It is a call.
Ta.
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 Now have you
Ta.
understood what a Murdanya letter means?
Ta.
Have you understood how the tongue shapes itself when uttering a Murdanya letter? So it is the same as now with a retroflex, that is a Murdanya articulation. Say R, where the tongue will not touch R, 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 look,
Look.
ah, look, vernacular pronunciation will affect you. You have for so many years that has been your tongue. So it is look. Now, so what is the importance is this, that lu is phonated behind ru. It is phonated posterior. Do not bring your tongue forward to ru look.
Look.
Ru look. Look. It is not many phonate it in various ways, but both are savarnas of each another. So the articulation for ru and lu should be the same. For South Indians, where they use ra, if you want to still correct it, because ra is also more than, so you say ru, 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 one behind the other. Ru, ru. Look. Look. ठीक है?
I
नहीं, call. It is a call. Una. Una.
I una look.
Look. ठीक है?
I una look.
नहीं, not I una. Una.
Look.
And now suppose you do when you are not under instruction, you have a doubt, you say this is say so this is e and u as calls. This is not how it is used in while we are speaking. It only reveals the articulatory part of it. So una, ru, lu, look, look. You have improved yourself by 50% in a span of 5 minutes. Now the rest are easier. Ong. O. Again is ong. Ong.
Aong.
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 No, not Aong. Aong.
Aong.
Ah.
Aong.
Ah.
Aong.
I out.
I out. I out.
I out.
I
I
out.
out.
Ah.
I out.
How much time did it require?
1 second.
They are very easy. If I say you tell, oh, you will not be in a position to imitate because I am not describing my articulation. I have to describe my articulation while I am instructing. And I should know what that articulation is. If I do not know that articulation, I will not be in a position to instruct. So, look, ong, I out.
I out.
I out. I out.
I out. I out.
Una
Ouch.
look, look, I out.
I out. Now
I
what?
out.
Now what have you marked? The question is, what have we marked in it? We have marked that the sequence of letters enforces for you to phonate the subsequent letter behind the first letter. So the second letter is phonated posteriorly to the first letter as a, e, u, not a, e, u. You're getting my point? There is a very specific articulatory process in the sequence itself. It is a, e, u. And it is a call. Similarly, look, it goes behind. Look.
The pronunciation of subsequent letter is influenced by the earlier letter.
By the script. It is instruction. You, I, or all would speak the way we have learned from our parents or teachers. Now, for Sanskrit, you require specific instruction. Now the further part comes. Now, in the Devanagari script, what they have done is A, I, O, Au. Now, what happens? The subsequent letter is phonated ahead, anteriorly to the first letter. So, it will become A, I, O, Au. This is how it has got corrupted. So, this has led to a complete corruption of Sanskrit, and in the process given rise to regional languages as far as their formal character is concerned. So going ahead again, the next fifth sutra is Haya Varata. Now here all instruction is as Yaralavasha Shasahara. Now this sequence is problematic. Panini doesn't instruct like this. Panini says Haya Varata. Haya Varata. So one is Haya Varata.
Haya Varata.
Haya Varata.
Haya Varata. Simple.
Haya Varata.
Then be careful. Lana is la has to be, because it is a savarna of ra, and ra being murdanya, la has also to be murdanya. So it will be lana.
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 Haya Varata Lana.
That is what it is. It is not dental. La cannot be dental if lu is not dental. If they have to be, see, there are three things for savarna. Either the asya should be the same, or the place of phonation should be the same, or the tongue should be the same. The tongue shape should be the same.
No.
At least one out of this should be the same. Then only it will become savarna. Otherwise, how it will become savarna?
Lana.
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 As
Lana.
far as our vernacular languages are there, we can speak as we speak. And there is an example in the Mahabhasha, in the first Annik itself. He has stated about Yarvan and Tarvan, two brothers who were masters in Veda recitation, in the Vedas. He writes that when he used to speak with commoners, he used to speak their tongue. However, while he used to recite the Vedas, he used to remain as was instructed to him. So both are possible. Both are possible. This is what Patanjali has documented. How can we question it? There is no reason to question it. So these are certain aspects which we need to place before ourselves and work accordingly. So Haya Varata Lana. Haya Varata Lana. And La has got a Na which is also Murdanya. So it is Lana.
Lana.
Haya Varata Lana.
Yeah.
Haya
Varata
Varata
Lana. Again.
Haya Varata Lana.
Lana. Lana. Now
Haya Varata
Lana.
Lana.
In the previous, in Haya Varata, Ra is Murdanya. Ra is Murdanya. Following Ta is also Murdanya. Haya Varata, Ra is Murdanya, Ta is Murdanya. In the next sutra, La is Murdanya, Na is also Murdanya. So that Savarna business has been addressed in the sequence of the Maheshwara Sutras along with the it letter or the Pratyahara. So the Pratyahara tells us what is the phonation of the letters preceding it. Going ahead, it is Jhabhaiya. Jhabhaiya.
Jhabhaiya.
Jhabhaiya.
Jhabhaiya.
Jhabhaiya. Abhi, in this, Iyo is a anunasik.
Jhabhaiya.
With the tongue shape as that of Cha Varga. Cha. In Cha Varga, the tongue is spread. So, Iya.
Jhabhaiya.
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 Now, Ghada Dasha.
Ghada.
Dasha. Sha is again Murdanya. Remember. Ghada Dasha.
Ghada Dasha.
Jaba Ghada Dasha.
Ghada Dasha.
This Sha is the first one. Shashasara ka pehla. Yara Lava Sha. This Sha is there. Jaba Ghada Dasha. Then Khapa Chatata Chatatava.
Gabha Chatata.
Khapa Chatata Chatatava. Khapa Chatata Chatatava. And Khapa Chatata Chatatava. ठीक है you can rehearse ठीक है तो नेक्स्ट अभी कपया अभी कॉल है
Kapaya.
No, it is ya. It is not ya. It is ya. It is not nasalized. So it is ya. Kapaya. No, you don't say ya. See.
Kapaya.
Ya. The last it letter is half articulated because no letter is following it. Then this sutra is very important because this is tremendously corrupted across Indian languages. That is Shashasara.
Shashasara.
Shashasa.
Shashasara.
Shashasaralaha.
Shashasara. Now, what is Shashasara?
Shashasara.
Shashasara is nothing but the Chatatava without its plosive aspect. It is modulated. It is a modulation of Chatatava.
Chatatava Shashasara.
Shashasara. Bas. So cha is Murdanya. So Shashasara. Shashasara.
Chatatava
Shashasara.
Shashasara.
Shashasara. Shashasara.
So this is done.
Shashasara hala.
So have I addressed the question that whether Maheshwara Sutras can be instructed within a short time?
Mahodaya, we
Yes.
left out one. Yamangana Nam we left out.
One is left out. So ya, ma, nga, na, ma. Ya,
Anuswara.
you what you do is now mukha nasika vachano nunasika. This is the sutra in the Ashtadhyayi. Mukha nasika vachano nunasika. So yeah, what happens is that it is totally nasalized. So you don't nasalize, you don't close your mouth. So it is ya. Air should come from your mouth, not just from your nose. It is mukha nasika. So air will be phonated from the mouth. Air will go from the mouth as well as from the nose. But which part of it will come from the nose and which part will come from the mouth? The first part will come from the nose and the later part will come from the mouth. So it is ya. Ya.
Excellent.
Ya. Ma. Ya. Ma. Nga.
Nyamangan
Na.
Nama.
Na. Yamangana nama.
Nyamangana Nama. Nyamangana Nama. Nyamangana Nama. Nyamangana Nama.
So are you satisfied? Have I been in a position to instruct?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is what it is about. Therefore, now another question comes. Now this is what Sanskrit grammar has destroyed traditional Vedic and Laukik Sanskrit. The next thing is the Vivruta. Now, through grammarians, this last sutra of the Ashtadhyayi has been interpreted as if the Vivruta becomes Samvruta. That is, A becomes A. Now, this is ill-founded. And Patanjali has said that the A is Vivruta with under the Vartik. Akarasya Vivrutopadeshe Akarasya Grahanartha. In order that A become the Savarna of A, it is necessary that A is phonated Vivruta. Now, here there has been a change in the phonetical structure if you make A Samvruta. Therefore, the last sutra is important. Why? It so happened that I heard these sparrows calling twice. Chew chew, not chew. How did they call? Chew chew. So this chew chew business is nothing but this business. Is a call. Repeated twice. So for every letter, if you want to determine the place of articulation of a letter, the best way is to call it twice independently. So you say kaka, khaka, gaga, ghaga, nganga, chacha, chacha, jaja, jaja, nyaya. Simple. No, you don't need anybody. You can work it yourself with the help of this last sutra of the Ashtadhyayi. This is very important. So the Vivruta Akarasya Vivrutopadeshe Akarasya Grahanartha. So this. Now, therefore, the next aspect, that is the Maheshwara Sutras as a tool for instruction in the place of the Devanagari script. Now I have demonstrated that it can be taught, it can be instructed in classrooms at primary and pre-primary level. There is no problem if the teachers are just initiated into it and they practice it over time through their professional training and practice. Children will change dramatically. The point is that they will learn the script faster. My daughter told me that how do we instruct the child to write or to learn the script? We say ka, then the child says ka and writes ka. Then you ask them to write ka, teach him the script. Now, here there is a problem. Ask the child to say ka when he is writing ka. Ask the child to say ka when he is writing ka. Ask the child to say ga when he is scripting ga. This will hasten the process of the child acquiring the script. In my next lecture, I have also made sutras for the Barakhadi also. They are very simple. It is very easy. They kakka, kikki, kuku. What is it? Is it sutras? The child gets bored writing it time and again. So this can be hastened to a very great degree. And by the age of, say, 10 years, the child would be linguistically proficient. This is what we need to aim at. The thought process will start, subjects will come later. Basically, during these first 4 years, from first standard to fourth standard, what are we teaching children? We are teaching children simple sentences, compound sentences, and complex sentences of a language. That is all that we teach the child, and all the material that is there in their curriculum is to aid the child to pick up these sentence formats. So once the child is in a position, first point number 1 is to articulate each letter separately and to speak. We have solved half the problem. So this is point number 1. The next point is Siddhe Shabdartha Sambandhe. Now what the problem is that the phonated sound dies immediately after you have phonated it or after you have listened to it. Where does it get recorded? It has to get recorded in the brain. Because the sound has died down, there is no sound experience of the word lingering. Therefore, in Sanskrit, this might not be as true in our vernacular languages, and it is absolutely not true in the case of foreign languages. They cannot get meaning without writing or reading. They have to go forward and backward to get the meaning of the sentence. And for this, they need the language to be scripted. The script format has come in for corrupted language. It is not necessary for Sanskrit. Because Sanskrit is so compatible. 1 minute. किसके बाद ऊपर होएगा first floor. So the point is, children get what you can say, they cannot grow further, develop further, because they cannot acquire or understand the simple sentence, compound sentence, and complex sentence. Now here Bhartrihari has made a statement. The statement goes like this, that the letter is a spota, the word or the pada is a spota, and the sentence is also a spota, where in the mouth as well as in the brain. The word, when you listen to the word, its impression is a lingual impression in the brain, to which the whole articulatory process is synchronized. In vernacular languages, this is disturbed. My question was this: how could people commit to memory 10,000 ruchas of the Rig Veda? How was it possible? I cannot commit to memory single sentences, leave alone a paragraph. And that is what we are making children do. Chandas are of such a nature that they are in Sanskrit, not in vernacular language. Somebody might have committed it to memory with lot of effort. But Chandas is the thing that is most compatible with human memory. So, when we have gone through this instruction process of the Maheshwara Sutra, the child will be very good at memory. Therefore, one. Secondly, memory is not sound memory, it is meaning memory. When I say a crow is sitting on a mango tree, I ask anybody to reproduce it. Does he reproduce the sound or does he reproduce the meaning? What has he to reproduce? He has to reproduce the meaning with the help of his phonation. There is a cow on the mango tree, or a crow is sitting on a mango tree. Therefore, Siddhe Shabdartha Sambandha is very important. He can only repeat if he has taken the meaning of it. And by making use of the meaning, he can then phonate it back. So, Siddhe Shabdartha Sambandha is very, very unique to Sanskrit. People could reproduce whatever they listened for an hour or half an hour, verbatim. How come that happened? It is not mystical. It is this instruction that is making the whole thing work. And the next point is, Maheshwara Sutra is the only tool to undo vernacular diction and restore Sanskrit to its former glory. Maheshwara Sutra is the only tool to undo vernacular diction and restore Sanskrit to its former glory. Next is, by learning to recite the Maheshwara Sutras, one has not to give up his vernacular diction. In fact, the vernacular diction improves. What the Vedas won't do in decades, the Maheshwara Sutras would do it in a year. The last sentence is absolutely true. The Maheshwara Sutras is the door to the opening of the Madhyama and the Pashyanti. Thus, it becomes a part of yoga, which Patanjali has said. Patanjali has said only the Vaikhari is seen. The rest of the three, that is Madhyama, Pashyanti and Para, are hidden in a cave. If we want to bring it out of the cave and see it by our own eyes, it can only be achieved with the help of the Maheshwara Sutras. So, I have completed this webinar up to this point. Now, if anybody wants to ask any questions or wants to discuss, you need not ask questions. I am talking about the Maheshwara Sutras, which are beyond any doubt. So, if there are any questions, I would like to address them. I'm sorry.
Mahodaya, I have one question. This is Saugandhi here. I have one question. You said the person needs to understand the meaning in another language to be able to repeat the sentence. But in Sanskritam, they don't need to. They don't need to spend time understanding and then repeating. Can you explain this?
Yes, yes. It is a spota. I will tell you.
Meaning triggers in the brain, the meaning is.
Yes. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
You say apple.
Okay. Apple.
Apple. Does the picture or visualization of the apple come in front of your eyes?
No.
Okay. Let us take another, or let us take the example of what I know from Sanskrit. Let us say cow. I say cow. Do I see the cow in front of my eyes? Can I visualize the cow? When I'm phoneting cow.
No,
Suppose I say guy as it's said in Marathi. Guy. I have to make a separate effort to visualize this word. For example, if you are a Tamilian or a Kannada or a Telugu speaking, what do you call a cow?
Mad. Tamil we call it mad.
Mad. Now, when you are pronouncing that word, does the actual thing which it represents, is it visualized while you are phoneting?
Probably yes, because I have been shown that and I have been told.
No, I'm not. That is okay. When I am phoneting
No, it doesn't.
At the moment I am phoneting it.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Now, if I say gau, you can phonate it and at the same time visualize the cow. This is the difference. And hence, the Vartik Siddhe Shabdartha Sambandh. This is unique to Sanskrit. This is unique to Sanskrit. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah, I've learned actually when I was learning shlokas, some shlokas, even though I don't understand much of it, I'll feel like crying and I feel like it's like talking to God. Probably it's because the Sanskritam's effect. Okay, now I realize.
Part number one is that its word form is very compatible and it helps you in spite of your corrupted tongue. It helps you in spite of your corrupted tongue. If you have a chaste tongue, you will be seeing it. Darshan. The word will, Patanjali has described in his first Anni that chaste phonation, what does it do? He said it is just like a woman newly wedded appearing in front of the man with whom she is wedlocked. The man is automatically attracted. There are no two things. This is what Patanjali has written in his first Anni. Point number two is this, that he has said that he who has not vash karna bolte hai na, has not
attracted.
Lakshmi has to go behind Saraswati. Saraswati is the ladder to Lakshmi. Saraswati is not adorable. It is adorable only to the extent that it is a ladder to achieve Lakshmi. And Lakshmi is not an idol. It is that, what you can call it as, that potency of human language to see while he is communicating. There can be no split between the communique, that is the phonation, and its visualization, and simultaneously for the listener it is spota, it is simultaneous. For example, when I'm saying Gau, you are visualizing if you know the Sanskrit word. That I don't mean anything else. And I have to take no effort to understand what its meaning is. It is so obvious and natural. So the Sanskrit as a language is the most natural language for humans because it is compatible at all levels of human physiology. I had to work a lot on this sentence. What is tabla playing? So Amazon Tirak was used to say saas ka khel hai. Arey saas ka khel kya hai? How is it related to breathing? Which in yoga comes in a very different framework. So it is saas ka khel hai. So what happens is that when we are speaking in Sanskrit, the whole physiological system for communication is synchronized for that particular purpose. This is what is unique to Sanskrit and is not unique to any other language. However big, however renowned it might be, however much passion we might have of that language. For example, I might have a great passion for Marathi and consider it to be a very chaste language. In spite of this, I have to recognize that I am speaking a corrupted tongue. And on that day when I realized that, I had tears in my eyes that I am speaking a corrupted tongue. And this has dawned, this has come to me because of my birth. You get my point? Whether it is Tamil, whether it is Telugu, whether it is any damn language, they are corrupted, point blank. They will not serve the intended purpose. Straight. Does anybody else want to ask?
Dhanyavad,
One thing, sir.
Mahodaya.
Mahodaya, I still got doubt on one aspect. For example, I don't know Denu means cow. For example, let us think like the person who doesn't know Denu means cow. Denu means cow. By pronouncing Denu, how could you visualize the cow?
See, any language is acquired. Language is not, doesn't come by birth. It is acquired. Therefore, language is a social product. It is a product of social interaction. It is a product of communication, wherein each group creates its own framework.
So picture of Dhenu is required. Picture of cow is required.
Obviously. Suppose I am asking you a very simple question. Whatever be the language, how do I teach a 2-year-old child to recognize a cow?
Yeah.
What I do?
I have to show the picture first.
And why picture? I will show him the cow and point my finger at him.
Yeah, okay, cow. I will show the cow. Okay, right.
This cannot be overcome because you speak Sanskrit. This is basic. Pointing, but you have not to go near the cow and put your hand onto it and say, "This is a cow."
Okay.
Now the child has the inherent ability to recognize an object outside itself.
Yes.
In a specific word form. Therefore, the form of the word which represents that object is as important to deliver the visual content in that word. If the structure of that word is not natural enough, the visualization part will not follow. This is what happens with English in all with all students who are going to English medium schools. This doesn't happen with students who are going to vernacular schools because they know the word. They know that the word. You just go on net and find out how many words a child learns in the first 5 to 6 years of his life. a huge amount, and we are losing it for Sanskrit. And when I have to learn Sanskrit, I can't become a 4-year-old child. And that ability of mine at that age has been already lost when I have turned 13 or 14 years. So it is important that if I have to teach Sanskrit, I have to start with the child, at least at the age of 4. Secondly, this is also the reason why in families where there is a tradition of Sanskrit, children pick it up faster than those who do not have a tradition, have its tradition in their family. Because a child learns from the family itself and from its community. Not having the problem with Sanskrit is we cannot teach the child to phonate Sanskrit words. I'll tell you my experience. When I was learning in 8th standard, I had opted for Sanskrit. The teacher started teaching Sanskrit with Rama, Rama, Rama. Being an anglicized person, I could not reproduce. Neither could I understand what it really meant, because such declensions are not there in English. Secondly, the concept of pratyayas and their attachment to the pratipadikas or to verbal roots, this process, the way Patanjali has done it, is great. It is beyond Euclid. By showing the process involved in. Secondly, suppose I am traveling by train and I am sitting in a train. Has the train to carry me along with it, or it carries me while it is moving? Such is the relationship between the word and its meaning.
Yes.
That is Siddhe Shabdartha Samiti.
Pagardha Veda Samskruti Samiti.
So you people are so passionate about Sanskrit. It is you people who should take up that task.
Yes.
That it is possible. I for one feel that I have not been so fortunate to learn Sanskrit at an early age, which is an injury onto me. Had I been conversant with Sanskrit, I would have been much better. But however, in spite of this, we should be in a position to afford this opportunity to all school-going children. If children of other religions do not accept it, fine, we can teach it to our people. And this should be done in schools. There is no use doing it today yet. Yeah, we are conducting with my daughter. I told her, Arey, let us understand what is Sanskrit grammar. People don't know. You will be in disbelief that people don't know what is meant by cases in English. It is never taught. Relationship of the verb to the noun is never taught. They only teach what they call is this number to the verb. That is all. Relationship is not taught. And I'll tell you why. When my daughter entered 8th standard, I told her, see, I have not understood this. Let me try and understand what is written there and what it really means. What Sanskrit has explored is that two nouns can come into relationship with a verb, or a noun can come into relationship with a verb only in 7 ways. There cannot be an 8th way. That Prathama, Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturthi are not Prathama, Dvitiya, Chaturthi. They are relations between the noun and the verb. What is not taught is the relation that exists between. This is not visible in English.
Mahodaya, this is what I am teaching for last for the
this
classes.
is the problem.
I am teaching this.
Yes, yes, that is. And see, children or adults find it difficult because they have not seen that relationship in the word, in the sentence.
It's verb and noun. What is the relationship? That is the most thing to be understood.
So all this, it has, and you know it much. You know it, I don't know. I know it as a concept, I know.
Here our Shastri Sahib is there. Shastri Sahib, would you like to speak? Vivek Shastri here.
Yeah, so it was a good presentation by Achyut Karve. Okay. He brought out the challenges of revisualizing Sanskrit as the mother seed of the vernacular languages of India. I call it the Brahmi language family. So what we are doing as Sanskrit education in the majority of the schooling system, or even the Desha Bhasha education system, we are not getting to the roots of the Brahmi design. That's the human-centric design. That's the word today. Human-centric design of the language, which is brain-mind interfacing, the memory interfaces. That we are not discussing. That is discussed at the very high level of the consciousness. Okay, leave it for the moment. Karveji raised an interesting question. When I say cow, do I visualize a cow? Okay. Suppose I say the word computer, and suppose in my front, Panini was sitting. Would Panini conceptualize a computer? Historically, it is not possible. It was not there in his time. And if he has to conceptualize, he has to have a mechanism to get from the sound structures, computer, to computation, what it does. So where would he go? He would go to the basic Varanakshara Samamnaya that makes this word, analyze it, visualize the Rupa and the Kriya behind the Pada. So this is the Prathamannika, the Paspashanika, where the Yena Ucharitena Kakuta Kuravishaninam Sampratyayo Bhavati. By engaging with the sound structures of a given unit word, we get the total communication, the form, meaning, Dravya, Guna, Akruti, Jati, Sanketa, everything connected with the Pada comes. And that relation can only be of 7 types. That is the Karaka Vibhakti. I mean, this is how I was teaching Sanskrit during my teaching tenure at the high school here for about 5 years. It was a new way of introduction I made from the traditional deviations as this one. And then when I taught it like this to my totally, American students, they found it much more easier to understand. Sanskrit is not complex or chaotic. It is more scientific. So if we don't want to learn maths, we don't have to go for the advanced physics. This was exactly the logic that was being told. And I appreciate that particular thing. And
sir,
now,
really, sir, last 10 years I am teaching Sanskrit, last 10, 12 years I am teaching Sanskrit. I really last 2-3 batches or 2 years, last 2-4 batches, I realized that this concept is to be taught for easy understanding.
Yes.
So I realized I start teaching like that now.
So the other important thing is, why is Sanskrit called Vak Yoga? It took me 40 years to understand that one single word. Vak Yoga with Dushyati Napashabdahi. Still I am working on that. That is the Yoga Sanskrit model. Now, the yoga is from the walk to Vakya, intention to articulation. And when that intention to articulation is made, observe it. When you say, my pronunciation could be Vivruta to us. Karveji can say, Samvrta, inside, holding. So that is individual variations. Yet we get akruti grahana jatihi. When we see 10 cows, the 11th one, when I say, oh, this is a cow. It belongs to that class. That is the human model, which AI cannot do. AI cannot do this work by statistics. Human mind can do it because it abstracts and assimilates. So this is the power of Sanskrit to design the AI module, what we are talking. But then using only Devanagari alphabets and IPA transliteration system and calling it AI of Sanskrit or AI of Indian languages, okay, may serve a front-end satisfaction, but it's a deep defective approach in the computational platforms and design itself. Maybe someday we understand that, but by the time the corporates will have already captured the essence of it. They're almost close to that. When Meta or Google or Stanford are doing that work, they're close to that, but they don't have the clarity of what Sanskrit Maheshwara Shiva Sutra abstraction is. That is where still we have got some working advantage. So if we are able to train our younger generation to the Ucharana, Yena Ucharitena, Kakuda Kuravishaninam Sampratyayo Bhavati, we would be able to develop a solution for the human-machine interaction as robotics, not by anglicized interfaces. This is the IT of Sanskrit. This is the AI of Sanskrit. And did our ancients keep this information somewhere hidden in some Brahmin's memory, not to be told to anybody? No. Every day when you say Vishnu Sahasranama or Lalita Sahasranama, we do a confession, or Aparadha Sahasrani. What do we say? Yat akshara pada bhrashtam matrahinam cha yad bhavet tat sarvam kshamyadam deva. We do that. So what is that bhrashtata what we are teaching and claim to be, the kushalas in bhash? Yastu prayunte kushalaha shabdan yathavat vyavaharakal sonantavapnoti jayam paratra vagyoga viddushyati napashabdai. So this is precisely what Karveji is bringing out, because it has a bearing on rest of the arts, percussion instruments, or the music, or the dance, or the mantra shastra. Now, I will just close my observation with one point. Karveji will be able to pick it up very fast, very easy. We have a statement. Sankirtya Narayana Shabda Matram Vibhukta Dukkhaha Sukhino Bhavanti. Right? That's a very common, well understood, heard popular statement. Sankirtya Narayana Shabda Matram. So you say, tell Narayana. How many people are trained to say Narayana properly? Just to say that particular name. And what happens inside? Observe this. Na is a dantya, anunasika. Then that has to go to kanta. Na, matra kala, anunasika, the whole saska khel. It has to happen inside. Na. And then ra. Na is a flat tongue to the teeth. But when it becomes a ra, it is not ru, it is ra. A different movement takes place. So from dantya, you are moving backwards to ra. And then, ya. Ya is still backwards. E and ya. Yan sandhi has taken place there. But it's a yogavaha. Yeah. And then we have to move forward to murdhanya, anunasika, na. So if we are able to do this Narayana Shabda Sankirtana properly, the neurophysiological conditions of the body will automatically calm down.
Accurate.
And this is the traditional prescription. Now it is for the scientists, whether it is the NIMANS, fMRI, FNR, all these kind of things, to talk about these things. So like this, every name in Vishnu Sahasranama, in Lalita Sahasranama, in Ashtottara, the Prakriti Shabdas have got a meaning, and then Om Namo Narayanaya. When I do the Prakriti Shabda with the Pratyaya, the Artha, the meaning comes up. So we are just talking about the Sankirtana Ucharana. To the meaning part, we have to go to the next level. That's the Avignata Shabdaha. Okay? Or Yastu Preyante, not that. Aviditva Shabdam, Yo Yajayati, Dandashuko Bhavati. So without knowing the meaning, if somebody performs or causes a samskara to be performed, they will be Mahapapiyan Dhoti. So this is important for Sanskrit training to our working professionals in the temples, in the samskaras. Not for the government job to write down some names, but this is the samskara which will reform the society. And this we are not doing to the required extent. So this is the importance of getting back to Shiva Sutra. Same thing occurs in music also. If somebody comes for Arangetram after 2 months of training with a good dress and all that, will they understand what is the nuances of the Bharadas Natya Shastra or the Rasa Siddhanta, how it is experienced? No. Why? Because without getting into the basics of the Bhasha Vignan, Bhasha Yoga, we are applying the Prakrit lens, Videshi Bhasha lens to understand our Swadeshi Bhasha. This is all what I want to say. We can talk about this in a greater discussion, but responding to Achyut Karve, he has done a great job. And this training, it takes about 4 hours. Even if it takes 1 week, so what? It's a lifelong training. It's a lifelong training to get to the proper pronunciation. To say my own name properly, to say properly by the Gayatri Mantra, to say properly the name Bharata, at least to that extent, or even the other, it doesn't matter what other deities' names are there. Thank you.
I want to make a request. We are in the modern world. In my next lecture on 21st, see, I have evolved certain sutras for the alphabet of the Barakari. What I want is, can we get them patented so that these people will not use it?
Well, my observation is very simple. It cannot be patented, but it can be copyrighted. It can be copyrighted. The credit will be yours. What I mean by that is, the credit goes to the person who says that. But patent means if somebody uses it, you can sue for the economic benefit. In copyright, it's an acknowledgement that it is given for a social good with a credit for the...
That is thick. No, I can't do it. Veda Samskruti Samiti should do it. I'm not going to, it is not for me. I don't want anything. But who is going to go through that whole process?
There is no competent body for that. There is no competent body.
Nobody can claim a patent for this.
Yes.
Probably, as he says, copyright can be claimed by the individual who is...
Not for the Maheshwara Sutras, for the subsequent Sutras.
For the
whatever you generate out of that as a research, that your paper can be copyrighted.
Yes.
You make a paper and copyright it. That's no problem. But asking for a patent is not a possible.
I don't know the process.
For patent, you cannot claim patent as this have told. You cannot claim patent is there to be submitted to the society. That's all.
Good.
But copyright can be made. This is, you can claim.
That should be done.
I am the person. I am the originator. That you can claim.
No, you can do it. I mean, that needs to be done because these people are behind money. I'll tell you. Not for
No,
us.
it doesn't need money. It doesn't need money. You have to apply to the government and say that paper is copyrighted. You say, take a number, ISSN number. You ask any printer, he will give you that number. Okay. You make a paper, or you publish to us in ISSN, our ISSN publication paper journal is there. We'll publish your paper. You submit paper, we'll submit it. Then you can, that it automatically gets copied. Once it is published in a ISSN journal.
Yes.
So can I make a, can I interrupt?
Yes, sir.
Sir, in government of India also, there is one, the intellectual property rights organization. It is in Shastri Bhavan, Chennai. It is for northern region that is there. They give patents and copyrights. As sir is telling, patent is not possible for this. Patent is normally given for a product. Copyright is given for any articles, essays, research publications and all. Copyright is given. For that, the Government of India, Ministry of Company Affairs, I think, Corporate Affairs, they charge minimum fee. Only thing is we need to go, nowadays, I don't know whether it is the filing process is available online also. So you can file, yeah, you can file, yeah, you can file online and then you can get the copyright from Government of India also. VSS anyhow, our magazine is there, it is robust and it has some testing for that. So that also you can do. But if you want legal copyright means, that is the legal way of doing.
Correct. You have to make an application.
Yeah, yeah.
You can make an online also, you can make application.
Online you can download the application, you kill up and pay fee, registration fee is very less. Government of India doesn't charge much fee. If you go to touts, perhaps they may say, we will get in 1 month, we will get in 15 days, then they may be after you. That's a different issue. But because this is our Sanatan Dharma, based on the Arya principles, Aryan principles and all, we will definitely get any...
They will use it.
They will do it. They will definitely do it. Perhaps they may form a committee. Perhaps they may form a committee of the Nishnatulu like Prabhakar Rao Garu and all, and they will examine your paper and give the copyright. That is a perfect process. And our journal is also, VSS journal is also is there.
Yes. VSS can do it. VSS can do it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our Dr. Babu can take it up if through journal, after publishing journal.
Actually, what I want to say is, if you want patent, it has to be, meeting certain criteria like, invention or something like that, which is not, not that knowledge is not available generally in the to the public earlier. So you have invented it. Some invention has to be there for making a patent for yourself. But if it is a copyright, means you have written something, and how that copyright comes, I'm not very sure. Because I have applied for patent, I got it. It is published and I got it also for some invention I have made. But the copyright is, I think, if it is published in a particular paper, and it is, if it is to be, that particular matter is to be copied by somebody, they have to take your permission, because it is already published in a well-established media on your name. So it is a copyright for you, a book written by you, which is not copied from anywhere.
I'll give you an example what I mean by it. For example, there is a sutra. Can a sutra be copyrighted or patented? The question is, Hayavaratha Lana is a sutra, Maheshwara's part of Maheshwara. What I do, in order to be made use of in the Barakhari, what I've done is that La has been brought ahead and followed by the subsequent. That is, instead of Hayavaratha Lana, which have no vowel cojoints, it is Rala Hayavat. Now Rala Hayavat is a new sutra. It doesn't reflect in any of our ancient literature. Can a sutra use of that sutra and we are going to use it for educational purposes. Here the question comes. This is, for example, we have Shashasara Lana. So it is Shashasara Lana. Rala Hayavat. This is a sutra. So the Bharakhadi has been brought under a different framework. In this process, it is in sutra form. It is not script form. It is sutra form. It has an oral framework attached to it. The question is whether these can be considered as intellectual rights.
Okay.
For our educational purposes.
Yeah, Karveji, I understand what you are telling. Okay. The basic Varnakshara Samamnaya, they cannot be patented or copyrighted. First thing. Second thing, when you say Hayavara as a inverse or any other different combination for a particular application, so that can be copyrighted and patented because it is an innovation with an application. Whether it comes under a product or a service, that's a technicality which legal people will advise you. Okay, but copyright is easy, it can be done. So what needs to be done, which I have done when I say I'm using a sound like yoga for a certain treatment, for a certain benefit, a novel way. So there is a process, there is a sound, there is a mechanism of all these particular things. It becomes copyright, a training material book. So you have got to make it into a training material book and charge for that. Charge means, okay, it becomes a commercially respected thing. Intellectually respecting is a different thing. Commercially valuable thing, commercial value gets added when it is translated into the form of a formula, application and benefit listed. That is possible.
Let us see.
Okay.
Okay. So should we end?
So this is what I have been talking as Vak Yoga. Yoga of to cure.
Yes, we will close it here now today.
Yes.
Yeah, Shastri Garu,
Yes,
I
sir.
again request you to give your series of topics to give us lecture. Karveji anyway accepted in giving it. You also please do it. It will be very educative for the children, for the people on this platform. Please transmit your knowledge to the general public.
Okay, I'll write something. Okay, I'll do that.
Please give a list of topics and dates.
Okay.
Okay. Ratnam Gari, you want to say anything?
Yes, Mahodaya. I have a suggestion. Just as in Sangeetam, there are some Vaggeyakarlu. So they are out of the same octaves, they are making their own raga, and they are based on that raga, they are giving a particular song of music. So like that in the Maheshwara Sutras also, supposing the Karve Sahib, just as he mentioned, he is going to evaluate a formula from which some application he is suggesting, then that can be named after his innovation. So that way he can go for a copyright. That is my suggestion.
You're right. I think you are right.
Yes,
that's what the Shastri Sahib also is suggesting.
Yeah, what you said is right. If you go through the traditional Sanskrit commentaries, okay, Adirantyena Sahita, the 14 Shiva Sutras, the number of possible pratyaharas, 1 letter, 2 letter, 14 letters, all combinations have been worked out. Out of them, Panini uses a maximum of 43. Number of possibilities are in thousands.
Yes.
But Panini uses only about 43 or 44 pratyaharas. That is sufficient for the grammar rule making by Panini. It is there in the book.
Yeah.
Now, Panini's listing of that 43, selection of that 43 and 44 was for language grammar rule making. Now, in the case of Karveji, like the Melakarta ragas, there are so many possibilities, but only certain ragas are given name and certain ragas are taught for certain benefits. Like that, the possible combination of sounds for certain applications, let us say autism. For autism, a particular combination may be useful.
That is
For
true.
blood pressure, something else could be useful. For psychic disorder, trauma, something can be used. These are research topics which I have listed under my school, under the Vak Yoga. Some students are doing that work, some doctors are doing it. I'm not in a position right now to disclose the details, but this is the approach I have taken. How the mind...
That is true, exactly. That's what my intention was. The application can be towards curing diseases.
Yes.
That is one important thing that several people are doing, and this also can be included in that. That is what I'm trying to hit.
Yeah, what you're saying is correct. When people say Gam Ganapataye Namaha, how to say Gam? Nobody trains you for that. You just listen and repeat. But there is a technicality. Gakara Purva Rupam, Akaro Bhajyama Rupam. All that is there. Tarena Ruddham. That is the technology of saying that Gam to get the benefit of the Ganapati related Siddhi or Roga Nivarana, Vigdha Nivarana, and all that. This is the technology that we are working upon. It's a interdisciplinary of the Vyakarana and the Tantra Shastra and the Prayoga. And for your information, from Andhra, from that area, Bhaskar Raya Makhinna was a great Sri Vidya Upasaka. Even now, his worship is, his family members are there. Bhaskar Raya Makhin, Saubhagya Chandrodaya and Varivasya Rahasya gives all details about this. Dashmaha Vidya. Throughout India, it is there. But research application is not even 0.01%. Hype and cheating is 70%. This is what we need to do as a correction to restore the Samskruti of Samskrutam for Sanatana Dharma. This is where we start with Shiva Sutras.
Nowadays, authenticity can be recorded by sonochrones through by giving a sutra and particular tune, and you have a pattern that is coming. That is a clear proof of the authenticity of that, and that can be recorded as a patent.
No, madam. There are a lot more complications. I don't want to get into this right now. Okay? But
okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
It is not that simple. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
sir.
all. Thank you so much for the participation. Just before closing, I wanted to request Achyut Karve Garu. His facial expression paper, it can be published in our Vedavani General. Only thing, some sort of formatting is required as per the Vedavani General others formatting guidelines. If you can spend little time on that.
I don't know. The problem with me is this is all where I have not studied from the formatting point of view.
I will guide you on that.
Format it is well and good.
I'll just guide you on that, and will help you in.
I will okay.
And once it is published, that means it is have a copyright that anybody.
That is necessary. That is necessary.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, thank you so much on behalf of all participants and Veda Samskruti Samiti, H.P. Rao Garu, B.V.K. Shastri Garu and all. We thank you for taking this webinar, and we look forward for more such webinars from you. And, let us go. Shall we now close?
Yeah.
Yes.
Shanti mantra.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करभावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सत्यं वद धर्मं चर सर्वे जनाः सुखिनो भवन्तु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वर गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु नमस्कार
ధన్యవాదములండి. Now let's go for the national anthem. Request all of you to stand and join us in singing the national anthem. जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल वंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधितरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव सुभाषित मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय 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 हे
जय हिंद जय हिंद जय श्री राम जय श्री राम
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Let us close.